In this video, we'll talk about how we can set up MySQL database with our Spring Boot REST API and what are the changes that we need to do in order to get that external database up and running. So, as you can see in the previous videos, we talked about how we integrate Apache Derby and embedded database inside our Spring Boot REST API application. And in this video, we'll actually move away from Apache Derby and actually start integrating MySQL database into our application. And we'll see how easy it is to do that when you have a basic skeleton here. So since we were using the Apache Derby in embedded database, we wrote everything which we need to actually add some data into your database, right? So we have the repository interface and we use that repository interface to extend from current repository, and we also use that into our business logic and also the controller. So we have the skeleton we need to actually integrate any other database. So we'll be integrating MySQL, and in the upcoming videos we'll also integrate PostgreSQL to our Spring Boot REST API application. So yeah, let's get started. So in this video, what we'll do is first set up our MySQL applications, so the way we can write MySQL queries and also check to see that everything is up to date. So in this video, we'll talk about how we can set up the MySQL database for our REST API, and in the next video, we'll actually integrate that MySQL database with our Spring Boot application. So first, I'm currently using a Mac OS. So if you're using a Mac OS, then you can just do a brew install MySQL using Homebrew and install MySQL on your laptop. If you're using Windows or Linux, then please make sure to follow or make sure to ensure that you have MySQL in your system before you continue this tutorial. Next, so one of the best MySQL UIs which I like is MySQL Workbench, because it makes it really easy to write queries, execute queries, and also see a lot of things which we need. So MySQL Workbench is a unified visual tool for database architects, developers, and DBAs. So we come under developers, I feel. So SQL development and comprehensive administration tools for server configuration, user administration, backup, and much more. So if you're having a SQL database to hold account client information, or basically when you have a login system in your application, you can use this to see those queries and data in your system. The next is that it's available on all Windows, Linux, and Mac OS X. So since it's cross-platform, I think it works well with any OS which you're using. So since we'll be using the develop functionalities and design, so we can create our tables. We'll be doing that in a minute, and then we can also customize user privileges so that once you're actually deploying your API, you know what to do. So let's go ahead and start with creating our database. So I have MySQL Workbench open here, and this is how the UI will be after initial login. So here I have a SQL query file. So I just write SQL queries here and then execute them. So the first query which we need to do is create a database. So let's do create database, and the name can be to do DB. So we'll keep it simple. The next thing which we need to do is use that database. So use to do DB. Great. And the next thing which we need to do is create the table. So let's create the table now. So create table to do. No, so we'll call the table as to do only, or just say to do. Yep, to do. And ID int, not null, primary key, and auto increment. So just to make sure that we have all the right things we need. The next is title, title, and it's going to be a varchar of 250. The next is summary, again a varchar of 250, and the last is description, again varchar for, let's say, 500 now. So this is our a few queries which we need to know before we actually start using integrating SQL. So what we did here is we created a database called as ToDB. Then we switched to that database, and then we created a table which has int as the primary key, ID. So ID as the integer, title, summary, and description. So here, if you see our to-do entity, you will see that we have exactly the same. So instead of a title, we have names. Let's quickly change that. So we don't need title, we need name, so that everything is right and all of the other things are good. So this is how we create our database and a table, and we'll be integrating this table with our entity. So we'll create an object relational mapping of this sorts with this table. And to make sure that the mapping is done correctly, we have the same column names as we have the class attributes. So let's run these queries. So for that, what you need to do is press Alt Shift and Enter. So let me just Alt Shift Enter, and this executes the query for you. So let me just show it to you. Yeah. Let's refresh all, and as you can see, we have our ToDB ready here. We have the tables as to do, and we have the columns as ID, name, summary, description. Great. Okay, so this is how you create your database, and the next thing which we need to do is play with the privileges a bit. So let me tell you what I mean by that. So first, let's write the query so that we get that out of the way. So we'll do flush privileges, and the next thing is going to be alter user. Let me just get this right. Yeah, root localhost, and we change the password to password. So one of the things which I noticed with my setup was that when I was actually writing the API, I didn't have any password set for root. So due to which the Spring Boot application wasn't able to figure out where my database was. So that is why a very good solution, a very simple solution which I found online for Mac especially, is that you can just change your password to anything of what you like, and then use that in your application, which will actually help identify or get the database URL as soon as possible. So since I spent around I think like 2-3 hours wasting my time on how to figure out this, you can just use these two lines and you can just go ahead. And this, I think, is a problem with Mac OS users only. So anybody from Windows or Linux should not be facing this problem. But if you do, then this is a good solution for any operating system that you have. So make sure you flush privileges, and then you alter the root identified by your password. So for me, it's going to be password for now. And again, Control Shift Enter, and you have run those queries, and you're good to go. So now that we have finished writing our updating our database, what we can do is we can go up and start updating our application. So we need to first start with the pom.xml file and then work our way till the application properties. So we need a few things. So first we need to remove Derby Apache because we'll be using a different MySQL database, and we need to add a few other dependencies. So we'll continue this in the next video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.